about to board the FV Tacoma, which was the first clipper in the history of southern bluefin tuna fishing.
I do know a bit about this. I worked on it for 40-something years.
Sorry, what was your name?
Andy.
Andy? We have Andy today. He actually worked on the Tacoma, so we're going to have a bit of a chat with him and he can tell us a little bit of the history of the Tacoma.
Yeah, well, she was built in Port Fairy. They started building it in 1944 and she was launched in late 51 in November, and they loaded all the family and the whole works and came to Port Lincoln. And that's the basic. In a nutshell, that was what happened. And then they tried tuna fishing, which was unknown pretty much at that stage of the game. So,
does she still operate?
it's still operating,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, my cousin, he's sort of running it as it's owned by the Preservation Society now, and he's the chairman or chief of that, and they're running it as basically a tourist thing, but it's a commercial boat, so it's doing, you know, they catch just a few fish as
She's
a
still
token,
operational.
so it's still operational basically.
Yeah.
They like to keep it going.
Yeah.
So if you want to come have a look.
So we're going to go in and we're going to have a look around the Tacoma. She's a huge part of history, guys.
So this is basically intact as it was when it was launched. What was that, nearly 70 years ago.
Yep. So she hasn't been changed at all?
Not this part of it. It's got a TV screen.
That would be new.
So that's about the lot. The rest, there's a few little modifications, very slight. The stove, it's not the original, but it's the same as the original.
Wow.
It's a Coke stove, Arga. Made in Sweden, I suppose it was. That's
Yes.
where they came from. You might know about Argas.
Yes, sure do.
So that keeps the place warm when it's running. They're just painting at the moment on the outside, all the varnish work for the windows, so they've got the windows up and letting the air out. But yeah, all the wood this is all original wood coloured, nothing's changed. And the accommodation in here is for up to about 10 blokes. The normal crew tuna fishing was 8. So this is where they all parked when they're off.
When they weren't fishing?
Not fishing, not working.
They're very small beds, like they're
They
not
are.
very big at all.
At least you wouldn't roll out.
Well,
That's true.
I slept in that one for 40-something years, so I know all about it.
I suppose you're meant to be slept in, that's
Did you
pretty
feel-
much it.
Did you feel claustrophobic at all
No,
in
not
them?
at all.
No? I would.
It was great when you got in the bunk. All fishermen like getting in their bunk.
Yes, particularly after a hard day.
Those are a bit more. We just got the things apart here at the moment. Well, we're putting in the firefighting gear. That's all been out being serviced. So she's. But you can see the size of the timber and stuff in there. It's pretty substantial. It's not. There's nothing lightweight about this boat.
She's pretty sturdy.
Yeah.
And she would have to be to do what she
And
does.
it's all held down by bolts. These bolts, they go right through from the top down through the deck and hold the deck house on, so that's why the deck house is still on.
Oh, wow.
70 years. I don't know whether we've got power or not. We'll just go and put the... Oh, we'll go, where do you want to go? Up top or...?
Yes, let's go up top. Let's go up and have a
Yeah, we'll
look
go back
upstairs.
this way.
So we're about to take you up the top of the FV Tacoma. What a piece of history. What a piece of history we are in at the moment.
It's not quite original. The boat was set up as a net boat,
Yes,
a persona, and this was
It was.
the model of the persona net. And then they changed it to a pole boat, so it had the bait tanks on the back. Big deck tanks, they held about 20 tonne of water and keep the live bait in those. and then they fished on the racks. You can see the racks there. You can see the system. So these racks were lowered over this. You can see around the back. They stand down on the rack poles and pull the fish in over your shoulder and onto the deck. So we used to work about usually 6 men on the racks. The middle rack was used much. So you had two on each rack working as a team. They just pole them over your shoulder when the fish were biting, and if they weren't biting, you just didn't get them. Simple.
It's like any fishing, isn't it? It's really a luck of the draw.
Yeah. So that's how it worked. So I've seen this deck full of fish. Until there's that many on the deck, they're sliding over them.
Yes.
And walking around the deck, you'll be up to your thighs in tuna. It'd be pretty hard to get around the deck if you had a good load on.
So were they normal rods or were they specially designed rods?
These are the poles. This is
Ah.
the bamboo pole. You can see that this one, they're set up for two people.
Okay.
So you had to go to the jig, to the swivel, and then you'd have 2 guys working together. So if the fish were big, and this was a really long pole, a longer pole hard pole. You just lean out, and you just when the fish bites over your shoulder.
So you basically fling it over.
That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So yeah, it was hard work.
How many tuna could she hold?
The most they had on this boat was about 75 tonne.
That is a lot of tonnage.
Yeah.
That's a lot of tuna. So if you're looking at 50 tuna to the tonne, you can work that out. That's what,
Yes.
3,500, is it?
Yes,
3,500
about 3,500 tuna.
tuna, so it's quite a few tuna.
So if we have a look at this deck, guys, like that is a lot of
But the
tuna to
tuna,
have on this deck.
as soon as you try to get them, it used to be divided into 6 tanks, and we try to get them down into the tanks quickly as possible, refrigerated tanks. So that was the big thing. You always had to go off the deck and clear the fish away quickly. So that was not, didn't like doing that. Didn't want to catch more fish. So you were torn between getting off, catching more and getting off if the fish were biting more.
Get while the going's hot and then
Yeah.
way later.
Sometimes the skipper would come down, Mark would come down, he'd be putting fish away while the boat would be just sort of wandering around and seeing, unattended.
We're about to go up to the top of the FB Tacoma. So how many would be up here at one time?
Up here?
Yep.
Oh, just
Skipper?
the skipper.
Yep.
The rest of the crew down working. Well,
Working hard.
If you were looking for fish, there'd be usually my father, he'd be up the mast, up at the top. My other uncle, he'd be sitting up on those boards halfway up. And my other uncle, he would be up here looking. He was the skipper.
Yep.
Uncle Bill, he'd be looking. They'd be all looking. As soon as you saw a patch,
Okay, so you'd be able to see them like a
you'd
big
see birds.
okay.
You could see the birds, or maybe if it was a calm day, you see them rippling.
Alright, so it was definitely a skill.
Oh yeah. Well, sometimes you only need to see one bird. It might be a mile away, 2 miles. You just see the bird, the flash of the wing, and
Wow.
As soon as you saw that, there was something on. So
Well, hats off to them for
yeah,
being.
it was that was a real skill finding the fish.
Wow.
Nowadays they've all got aeroplanes and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
So
sonars.
this is the. It's a bit chilly out
So we're
there.
taking inside the wheelhouse.
This is the wheelhouse, which is undergoing a bit of mucking around at the moment.
Bit of restoration.
So this is all pretty. This is the wheels and steering gear, and a lot of it's original. That gadget's original. The rudder indicator. What's not original is still quite old. So the wheels they've been turned a lot.
They would have had a lot of turns.
A lot of hands on them.
Yes. Yes.
I've sat here for a long time steering it, you know, doing watches. You'd be heading out at night at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning heading out. You'd be doing a watch for 2 or 3 or 4 hours.
What was it like working on her back in her heyday?
Oh, it was good when you're with the family. It was you know, all good workers, and it was a sort of generally a good atmosphere. It was a good boat too. It was always it was a well-found boat. You didn't worry about the sort of the boat. The safety side of it was all good. Some of the other boats were a bit dodgy, and some didn't come back even. But yeah, no, this was a good boat.
She looks nice and sturdy.
Yeah, well, when they built it, they were good boat builders, our family. So that's what they were really good at.
That was the thing.
Definitely hats off to you.
Yes.
You can see it's still, all this is intact, totally
Yeah.
original. There's a few things that have changed and gone, but what's here's the woodwork side of it's all original, which is not bad for 60, 70 years of hard use. You
Yes.
know, it was
Yeah.
If you ever had the chance, would you work back on her?
not now. I've had enough.
You've had your day there.
I've had my life anyway. I started when I was a kid.
Was it a life that you enjoyed?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't swap it for anything.
Yeah.
We were the last of the big game hunters in reality. There's not many people in our situation. You're out there, you know, doing battle with fish and tuna and stuff that was you can only sort of dream about now, basically.
Yes. Yes. Now, can people make donations to the preservation of her to
Oh,
the
yeah.
society? Now, where can they do that?
No, I'm not sure. You're best to get onto the website, Tacoma website, and you'll find out
Awesome. Yep. What we'll do,
all the
guys,
details there.
is we will leave a link to the website in this show, and please make a donation to this. It is an extremely huge part of history, and as you can see, it is a beautiful boat, and we need to keep her running.
Yes.
Well, that's what my cousin's. He's right into that. You know, trying to keep the wheels going, because these sort of boats are just disappearing. Because this design was an American design. Well, I don't think there's many left even in America now like this.
Wow.
They're pretty rare. There's one you will be able to dig up some information about. It's called the Western Flyer. She was a little bit smaller than the Tacoma.
I've heard of her.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Well, that was the one. John Steinbeck,
Yes.
the famous American author.
Yep.
He wrote a book on it, and it was about his trip to the Sea of Cortez. And that boat now it had a hard life, and it was basically wrecked. Well, they've restored it. They've completely rebuilt it, and so it's all in its glory now. But it was the same designer that designed that boat
As Tacoma.
as Tacoma. This
Yes.
was a bit, maybe a bit more modern design,
Yes.
another few years.
Now, the name Tacoma,
Well, that's
where did that come from?
the name Tacoma came from. The boat was designed by Western Boat Building Company in Tacoma,
Right.
and my father and his brothers, they decided that would be a good name for the boat, the Tacoma, because
Tacoma.
this Western Boat Building Company, they became quite friendly with the manager, the Petrich family that owned it, and they got the plans for nothing. They just gave them the plans in the end, so they became friendly with them, and they were impressed that this mob in Australia could build a boat like this,
Yeah.
you know, with none of the facilities they had a shipyard with 90 blokes working in it or something, so they could knock these out in, you know, a year or 6 months.
So she was built in a little bit more rougher sort of conditions, like not in a shipping yard or...
No, it was built next to my house in my cousin's backyard. Have you been to Port Fairy?
Yes.
We're on the banks of the river there.
Yes.
Just at where the river goes around the bend, out where the last houses are, that's where she was built.
She was built there?
Yeah, right on the bank, sitting up there. And
that's incredible. To have a boat like this built just in a backyard,
yeah, well, that's what they did.
Incredible.
All by hand. They got the logs. The logs all came from down in the Otway Forest, the keel logs. There were 6 major keel logs. The biggest was 70 feet long and weighed 8 tonne. And I think there was about 30 tonne of logs arrived by train into Port Fairy, and they had to go and get those on a jinker arrangement.
Wow. How long did it take you guys to build her?
Well, they took 7.5 years to build it.
Wow.
3 of them working with my
And
grandfather.
she's still going.
My grandfather was a shipwright. He was sort of knew a lot of the tricks, and he did all the caulking of the hull, which was a big job.
Yes.
So he was the harbour master too, so that was handy. But he did all the caulking on after work and Saturdays, and that he'd work all day Saturday caulking it.
Wow.
So between the 4 of them, they built her, and they did a pretty good job.
Yes. Yes.
It was probably better built than the American boats.
Yeah.
The timber in it was, a lot of the timber was better. They used Australian.
So it's a lot more solid.
Yeah, the Jarrah bottom. A lot of the bottom is Jarrah, and that's better timber than the Oregon softwood, which the American boats were built on. So yeah, they had better timber, and they were building their own boats, so they were conscientious, and then everything was built, because my grandfather was a Clyde trained from Scotland. He was a Clyde trained builder, and he knew how to build boats properly, so they really built it well.
Yes.
As you can see.
Yes.
The evidence is pretty much here.
The evidence speaks for itself.
Well, you can see the boat
she's
next
still
door.
on the water.
The boat next door, that's still, after 80 years I think, or more, that's still intact. She's all Huon pine, that little one.
Is she still in commission?
She's just been taken out. She was crayfishing for most of her life down in Beachport.
Yep.
But she's just been taken out of commission, and Ross uses it for a pleasure boat now.
Yes. Yep.
So
they used to catch school and gummy on her?
Yeah, school sharks and gummies down off Port Fairy down towards Cape Otway.
Yes.
That was their patch.
Yes.
And then she was sold up to Beachport, and she fished there for the rest of her life.
Right.
For another 70 years or so. And she has reputedly caught more crayfish than any other boat in South Australia.
That's incredible.
Just
wow.
for the sheer fact that she fished so long, and she caught a lot of crays while she was fishing. So.
And her name is the Dolphin.
The Dolphin. So
she's no longer in commission, guys.
She's not going, but the Tacoma is.
But the Tacoma is definitely still in commission and still well used. As you can see, she's a very sturdy boat, and to be honest, I think I'd rather trust a boat like this one than some of the modern day ones. Definitely.
Yeah, well, she's got the second motor in it. The motor's a Danish slower speed motor, so that.
She diesel?
Yeah, diesel. That's 500 horsepower diesel at 500 revs, and that still runs away quite sweetly. After that's just past its 50th year.
Now, how many engineers would you have on board at the time?
Just one.
Just the one.
Yeah, I was the engineer for 40 years, so I do know a bit about the engine.
You know about the boat. You know about the engine.
I helped install it.
Yes.
And then looked after it for that long, so I do.
Now, how many crew at one time?
When we were tuna fishing, we had the usual was eight crew.
Yes.
You had one chumming, the skipper up here, and then 6 polers working the poles. There's two on a team each team.
Now, how long would you be at sea?
It varied. Sometimes you'd go for a couple of days, and other times you might go for a week. They did 5 trips to New South Wales. They got as far as Pittwater up in the Hawkesbury. That's as far north as she ever got. So that was 5 trips they did to New South Wales, but they were longer trips. They'd go away for up to 4 months. That was
Yes.
the longest I think they were away there. So they were away for a while. And then they'd be back for the Lincoln season, which was, yeah, you were in and out here mostly. You were
Yes.
short trips, you know, sometimes 4 days, 5 days. It just depended on the weather and the fishing, whether you filled up. Sometimes you'd go out and 2 days later you'd be full.
Yes.
Um,
Was she used in harvest or just
No.
in catch?
Just catching,
Yep.
always just catching.
Yep.
And then in about 1968, 69 we went prawning.
Yes.
And that's where she spent most of her life, actually prawn fishing.
Yes.
So she was the very important boat in the prawn fishery.
Was she one of the pioneers,
Oh, yeah.
pioneering boats of prawns?
Oh yes, sure was. We had a go in 1967, there was no prawning then. And my cousins had a go with a bloke early, a few years early, and they always thought it was a good idea to have a try, so we had a try, and we didn't do much good. And then another guy had a go and he struck gold, and we went straight away again. So we were involved in the prawning right from the start. And you'll notice all the machinery on the prawn boats,
Yes.
the graders and hoppers and that,
Yes.
that's my effort.
Incredible.
That's
Wow.
I designed all that gear, and it was all developed on here.
Yeah, really?
Then I started making them as
So
a
this is where
side
it all
job.
began?
Yep. So it
Wow.
was a side job,
Yeah.
making graders during the winter and off periods.
So really in hindsight, the Tacoma is a pioneer in a lot
It's a
of
very
the
much-
fishing, isn't she?
It's been a research boat in some respects, because they started off with a netting which proved to be not successful because the net was the wrong size, too small, and they didn't have a power block to wind the net up, which the technique was very slow and tedious. You just couldn't do it quickly enough. There was a few obstacles why they couldn't catch them with the net, and then the poling, they successfully proved that would work. And then they did quite a bit of salmon fishing in the early days with Australian salmon, netting those around the coast here. So they developed the net for that. That was one of their sort of developments. And boats, net boats and stuff. And then when we got into the prawning, we sort of got into a fair bit of developmental work and gear and nets and stuff. And always sort of, this was an innovation boat, this one, to try and different things. And we were basically the first ones here in South Australia to freeze the prawns and pack the prawns on board.
Yes.
Wow.
So we installed a plate freezer, and the product was just brought on and shipped out in 2 kilo packs.
Yes.
So we were the first ones in South Australia to do that.
I think they're now 5 kilo packs. Now.
Yeah, we went to 10s and 5s, but 2s were pretty hard work. So
Because you would have your different sizes,
And
your
you'll
16,
see-
20s,
you'll-
your 21, 30s.
if you go around the corner, you'll see the next generation of boat
Yes.
was the Atlas.
Yes.
Have you noticed the Atlas?
Yes, I've seen the Atlas, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's our design. So all the ideas went into her, and she's basically the latest and the greatest in prawn boats. It's totally different to the average one.
Wow.
It's all fully enclosed and different systems. So it's a pretty good boat. Everybody likes to be on the Atlas. It's more comfortable and steady. And
More sturdy.
yeah, it's a solid boat. It doesn't look much bigger, but it's a huge boat compared with the others.
Yes.
It weighs about another.
When you look at the size of Millennium and Lunacy, she's
yeah, well,
huge.
she's deep under. Like it's got a keel underwater there that's 27-ton bar keel that keeps the thing upright. So the thing, the boat weighs 230 ton, 220 or 30 ton fully loaded. The other ones are about 180 tons. So
Yes. She's a
quite
lot
bit
heavier.
Yeah, a lot heavier boat.
Yes. Yes.
So so the Tacoma finished up about 2001, I think, and the Atlas took over, and then this was just sitting here for a few years having a rest, and then my cousin got the idea that he was going to get it going and get into action again, so he's been hard at it ever since.
Hopefully we'll see her on the water again.
Yeah, so he's been doing a good job. You know, they keep it running. They're just going through the maintenance period now. Another few weeks they'll be getting going and doing trips, and they do sort of birthday parties or funerals, weddings. things like that. I've done a bit of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And just little events. We took Captain Flinders' descendants down to Memory Cove and so forth one trip. That was a
That's
trip.
incredible.
Wow.
So, yeah, there was four of his descendants, which was quite interesting. Took them to the place where Flinders had been 200 years earlier.
Wow.
So that was quite good. So yeah, Ross, he likes to get 2 or 3 tuna trips a year. Takes out a ladies' trip. So they take out all girls for a trip. And then they have the men's trip. They take out all the blokes that want to be tuna polers. It's quite interesting to see.
It would be interesting to watch.
See how they carry on and find it difficult, even though the tuna lately have been a bit smaller.
They have, yes.
Yeah, the bigger ones used to slow us up a bit.
Yes, indeed.
You realise you're starting to get old when you can't fling them over your shoulder as quickly as you used to.
As you used to. Well, thank you very much for bringing us on board. It's absolutely incredible. This boat is absolutely incredible, and we were, as a marine biologist, I love boats as well as marine life, and it's great to see such a piece of history still on the water and still in commission. A lot of the times, a lot of these companies will decommission a boat, but it's great to see that she's still in commission.
Yeah, well, this one was always in good condition, so it was easy to keep going, whereas a lot of the boats, they're pretty worn out when they stop using them and they're over it. And some other boats they find as total wrecks and then they try and restore them. So there's too much work involved in that sort of caper.
Wow.
But it relies on a good team too. They've got a fairly good team at the moment of guys to hang in and work. And the only trouble is they're all getting older and they need some young ones.
Need some young ones to come along and
Yeah,
help.
it's difficult to get young people nowadays to volunteer for this sort of stuff.
It is.
With the necessary skills, you need a variety of skills. You need electrical, engineering, woodworking, and
You need a bit of everything.
yeah, a bit of managing skills. So it's not an easy thing to keep going.
It's not. No, it certainly isn't.
So
Well, guys, we will leave the website link on this video for you. Please make a donation to this because it really is a great society to be. Let's try and preserve her for as long as we can. We in Port Lincoln, we pride ourselves on our boats, we pride ourselves on our tuna industry and all our industries really. So help support, keep the Tacoma alive.
Yeah. Let's make her
Float.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Let's keep it going.
Yes.
Let's make it great again.
Yes, let's make her great again. Yes.
Always.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's been amazing. We
no
were
worries.
just absolutely blown away by her history. She's
Yeah.
incredible. She's incredible, and the fact that she's Australian made as well. She was built in Port Fairy, and as you heard how she was built, it's absolutely incredible that she wasn't even built in a shipping yard. I mean that to me is incredible.
Yeah.
That's
Incredible.
craftsmanship.
That is
Yes.
true craftsmanship, definitely.
Yes.
And to actually speak to one of the the pioneers of this boat really, and
Yeah, I was 18 months when I came across on the boat. I was the youngest member of the family. There was seven kids and 3 guys and my father and his 2 brothers and their wives, 3 wives, and then a couple of other guys we had on, young guys. And one of them's still part of the team. He's still here, he's 87.
wow, that's incredible.
And he's still poled tuna last year, I think.
Oh my goodness,
Wow.
that is incredible.
Starting to get to the end of it, that I think.
Yes.
Oh, Jack, but
Yes.
so it's a bit of a family. This has been a boat basically and a family connection. It's a pretty strong. That's why it's in.
So she means a lot to you.
Yeah, well, every part I look at, you've got some association with it. You've looked after it. You've nurtured it. You've
You see the history.
been careful with it all your life.
Yes,
So,
yes, it's been like your child.
And you tend to know every piece of it, everything, and every where things are, and even though I haven't been working on this boat for 20 years, I can still come on and start looking around in the drawers for stuff, you know, here and there and something there. And
We know every little piece.
yeah,
of
with the
every
engine,
little
I just go down. You can just start it up too. You know, it's just a second nature.
Yeah.
It's part of life. It's like riding a bike.
You never
I
forget.
think. I hope not.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much again.
Yes.
This has been amazing,
well,
and
I
it's
hope you're successful in getting it out there.
yes. Well,
Yes.
we've been pretty successful with our show so far. So I'm hoping this one's going to be as big as the rest of them.
Yes.
And we will be. We'll see these shows on Netflix next year. We have been picked up by Netflix. So
Alright.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice. See you later, guys.
Thank you. Bye.